I want to say what an honor it is to stand here today with leaders in law enforcement, parents, teachers, health professionals, the county health organizations in this state. We as SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, we're the leading national organization opposed to the commercialization of marijuana. And we're proud to stand with not only the state medical organizations, but also the national medical associations and organizations who all have said marijuana is a harmful substance and it's best to put the brakes on this. So, I'm the Chief of Staff, Senior Policy Advisor at SAM. I'm from Colorado. I'm here today as someone who has lived legalization firsthand. I'm here today as a father of a 2-year-old daughter and as a husband to a wonderful wife. We lived legalization in Colorado, and let me tell you something. When we were sold legalization, we were told that this would regulate it, that this would protect our kids, this would bring in revenue, this would get rid of the black market, this would be all about public safety, and of course, this would solve social justice. All of these promises turned out to be empty. Let me tell you what legalization looks like. Legalization is a profit ploy by big tobacco. Okay, just last month, we learned that Altria, the owner of Philip Morris, the owner of Marlboro, is now in for $13 billion in stake in the marijuana industry. That is what we're talking about. We're not talking about mom and pop shops. We're not talking about looking out for kids. We're talking about an addiction for profit industry that is now rising again. We have 3,000 youth in this country now, each day, who are initiating on marijuana use. 3,000 youth. In Colorado, we're the #1 state in the country for first-time youth use. In legalized marijuana states, it's up 14% in kids 12 and up. Okay, that is the impact on our youth. But let's talk about social justice for a second, because that's, I know, what we're hearing in New York. Social justice. We now have the former CEO of Purdue Pharma, who brought us OxyContin, and what a great job he did on that, is now the CEO of a marijuana company. Okay, so we have big tobacco, we have big pharma, we have major industries doing major ploys. Now, what does that look like, okay? You hear the players. What does that look like in practice? Well, let me tell you what it's like on the ground. We have Cookie Monster being used as an advertisement just last month for an edible, for a marijuana edible. Cookie Monster being used, okay? That's not adult use. That is clearly targeted at our youth, okay? And that is what this industry is doing. That is what it looks like. Let me tell you what legalization looks like firsthand, okay? My wife and I, we used to live in Denver. We now live in DC. When we lived in Denver, we would go out of our apartment. We'd walk down the steps. We'd go for a walk with my daughter. She was in her stroller. We're walking down the street, and every time we went for a walk with my daughter, she was covered in a cloud of marijuana smoke. And one day, we're walking, and there's secondhand marijuana smoke filling her stroller, filling her lungs, and my wife turns to me and she says, "I can't believe this is normal. I can't believe that this is just the common experience here." And I turned to her and I said, "You're right. When did this become normal?" So for New Yorkers, I urge you to think about the experiences of those who are living in legalized states, of raising a child in that environment. Is that the environment we want? Now, let me tell you something else about this predatory industry. Just about 3 months ago, Denver Health, one of the most prestigious nonprofit medical institutions in Colorado and certainly in this country, did research. They had their researchers pose as mothers pregnant in their first term, in the first trimester of their pregnancy, and they called around to all the pot shops in Colorado. And they asked, "What should I do about my nausea that I'm having during my first trimester?" 70% of the pot shops recommended high-potency marijuana products to those pregnant mothers. And we know that the American Academy of Pediatrics says that is not only dangerous, it can at times be fatal, and we should avoid that. So that is what this industry is doing in practice. That is what legalization looks like. I've lived it firsthand. I've seen it. We're talking about stats, facts, and real-life examples. And I urge the people of New York, the legislators of New York, the governor of New York, to think about what this really looks like. Do we really want this here in New York? There are better ways to solve social justice. We at SAM are pushing forth those proposals. I'd be happy to talk to you all about that later. But this is not the way. Pump the brakes. Let's get this out of the budget. And thank you so much for having me.